Hi everyone, my name is Vasiliy Sabirov. I'm lead analyst at dev2dev.com. We are Lithuanian-based. We are based here in Vilnius, analytical platform for game developers. And yeah, today we'll speak about analytics. We help on any stage of the game studio. I mean the traffic, the gamers' retention, monetization, and the in-game economy. And yes, let me start today's speech. Imagine that you have the game and you think it is successful and you enjoy your life and you like to smoke. But there is no guarantee that your investors will not come to you and will not cut your budget. And so today we will speak how to understand the problem in the game. How to find it. And I'd like to provide you with an algorithm, with a better algorithm, how to analyze your game. Today we'll speak how to find the bottlenecks inside your game. You need to know that the analytics is the remedy for your project because it's similar. You're going to doctor, I hope, a few times a year. And of course, the doctor will make some measurement to you, and the doctor will make some decisions based on your metrics, based on your KPI. The same is for analytics. Analytics is a doctor for your game. Analysts take measurement. Analysts help you to make a decision. And of course, if the basic metrics are not enough, then we need to dig deeper. Then we need to use some other metrics. And today I'll speak about it. The first level, what we recommend you to start with when you like to analyze your game is the basic metric, of course. The basic metrics, I mean revenue or gross, the monetization metrics, your audience, the size of your incoming flow, I mean the new users, how much users prefer to come to your game, and the users online. This metric is very specific for games. The higher users online metric is, the more interesting your game is if you're talking about PvP, of course. But, of course, this set of metrics is not enough for you to understand what's happening inside their game. And there could be some theoretical situation when the blue line is your revenue and the red line is your incoming flow, I mean new users, and everything is growing. Revenue is growing slightly, but new users growing significantly. But after that, something happened inside your game, and your metric can start falling down. And if you use only such metrics as new users, audience, and revenue, you cannot understand what happens inside. That's why you'll need another stage, another level of game analysis, the metrics of quality. The metrics of quality are more important than the metrics of quantity because the metrics of quality show how good your game is. And first of all, you need to optimize the metrics of quality. And only after that, you need to buy some traffic and you need to grow your game. When I talk about metrics of quality, I mean, first of all, the metrics of retention. It's maybe the most important metrics in the game because retention metrics, they show the percentage of people who remain active after some time from the first launch. If we are talking about first day retention, it's really important. It's the reaction of users of your tutorial, of your first session. And for example, if you're talking about 7 days retention, this percentage of users shows the share of loyal users. They understand your game, they understand your basic cycles, and they like you. So you need to optimize such metrics as 7 days retention and the further retention metrics. And also, if we're talking about quality, we also need to mention the monetization metrics, such as ARPU, average revenue per user. It's called revenue divided by audience. It shows how much money one average user brings you within the whole time, or within 1 day or 1 month. ARPPU, average revenue per paying user, this is also a very important metric. It shows how much money comes from one payer. It's the reaction of your users to the prices level that you have inside your project. And also the metric called LTV, lifetime value. It's also a very important metric, and most of the games I know, they have the special departments who optimize this metric. The LTV shows how much money one average user brings the game within the whole lifetime. So to optimize lifetime value, you need to optimize the retention and the monetization metrics. So it's like, maybe it's the basic metric for the quality of your game. The higher lifetime value is, the better your game is. And yes, now let's discuss some case. Everything is okay, and you check your metrics every day, but one day your revenue starts falling. Why? What can be the reasons? What you will check? What are the questions that you will answer yourself first? By the way, you don't need to answer. I will answer for you. Here is the metric map that I can recommend you to take a picture of. It's really very important. It's like very basic and very simple, but anyway, your revenue starts falling, and you need to understand why. There are 3 factors which can change your revenue. It's your audience and your quality, lifetime value or ARPU. So first of all, you need to check the audience. What happened about the audience? If the audience is okay and it didn't fall, then it means that something happened with your quality, with the quality of your project. So you need to explore your lifetime value and ARPU. ARPU consists of paying share, I mean the share of users who prefer to pay, if we are talking about free-to-play games, and ARPPU, the revenue from paying users. So if you understand that the reason is the quality, so you need to check what happened with paying share and ARPPU. And let's say that you can find that the problem is in paying share, so the share of users who prefer to pay decreased. And after that, you need to understand why, and you will need some deeper experiments to answer this question. It could be another reason. For example, you understand that your quality is okay, but then it means that something happened with your quantity, something happened with your audience. Then we check daily active users and monthly active users. There are 2 factors that can decrease it. Either the incoming flow decreased, I mean the flow of new users, or the retention. And for example, if you check that your new users is okay, your new users metric is okay, then the reason is in the retention. Maybe you changed something in your tutorial and it decreased the retention inside your game. Okay, the next level, how to analyze your game, is events and funnels. You know, all the analytic systems are based on events. Usually, games send us the data about the sessions and about the payments. And usually, this data is enough to understand, to calculate all the metrics. But if we want some deeper analysis, we need to track more events. For example, how do users pass the levels? How do users kill the boss? How often do users visit the in-game shop? Which goods do they select inside the shop, and so on? So that's why we also recommend you to track the key events that you have inside your game. And there are some recommendations how to build the event structure when you integrate the analytic system. First of all, you need to mark the key users' action. What do you expect your users to do? Usually it is to retain, maybe to churn, or to pay, or maybe to press the share button and something else. After that, you need to understand which events do usually users do before the key events, and where else can user have problems. That's how you can create the structure of your events. And after that, you can build some funnels. For example, here we can see that the problem is on the registration form. Most of the users prefer to churn on the registration form. Usually this situation is very similar, is very typical for the forms where they do not show the rules of creating a password. You know, when you input your password and some error is shown, like for example, the password should contain at least 2 digits, and you said, okay, let's add 2 digits. You add 2 digits, and it said, okay, and now you please add a few specific symbols. You said, okay, we will add a few specific symbols. Please remember that the registration form should not take more than 1 or 2 minutes. After that, it started annoying people. And here's the typical situation for this annoyment, for this reaction of users. So you need to optimize your registration form because it's the simplest way to lose your user. And also, we really recommend you to optimize your first session, to optimize your first-time user experience. And we recommend you to analyze it as deeper as possible. For example, in our system, you can create a funnel only for the first session, a funnel which can consist of more than 100 steps. And one of the clients of us integrated 100 steps. By the way, tutorial was only 5 minutes short, but they integrated 100 steps inside the tutorial and they sent the data to us. They integrated even the invisible steps where some like levels, buildings are uploaded, where some graphics is uploaded. And they found out that the highest churn is on the levels which are invisible to the users. So during the first sessions, users don't want to wait. So please optimize it technically. It should be easy, it should be simple, it should be fast. Okay, the next stage is the game structure. Of course, the game usually has some specific structure. I mean, the game levels, the locations in the game, and you need to calculate everything about every level and about every location in the game. For example, here's the report that we have in dev2dev. It's called users by level, and here you can see the distribution of your users by levels and how much money comes from any level, what's the average money amount users usually pay on any level, and so on. The next report is called user progress, and we have created it for March 3 games, where there are lots of locations, and the users usually go from one location to another. And yeah, we help to calculate any metrics about the locations in the game. How many stars do users usually get on the location? How many stars do you usually get on unsuccessful or successful attempt? How many steps do usually they do, and so on. That's how you can optimize, you can find the bottlenecks, you can calculate the complexity of locations, and you can optimize your game balance. So the case is your players got stuck on level 7. What will you do? Of course, first of all, you need to calculate the complexity. Maybe it's too complex for them. After that, you need to calculate any digital parameters of the locations. I mean, how many users do come to on this level, how much time they usually spend, how many steps do usually they do. And we have such case in one of our client game. And it was an interesting situation. The key is that level 7 in that game was the last level of the initial part of the game. Level 8 was like the next level. It starts like the professional career for the players. So they prefer to stay on level 7 because they were afraid of going to the level 8. They were the most skilled players on the level 7. But on the level 8, they will start to be the less skilled. That's why they prefer to stay on level 7 and they prefer not to grow like Peter Pan. Of course, it's the bug. It's the mistake in the matchmaking system, and our client had to change it. The next level is game economy. Of course, if you're talking about free-to-play games, usually users have some currencies, they make some purchases, they keep the currency on the account. And also you need to understand it. You need to understand their payment behavior. For example, in dev-to-dev, we allow to calculate the structure of user purchases by levels. We help game developers to understand the in-game economy. Another report that I can recommend you to use, not necessarily in dev-to-dev, but inside your game, is the structure of revenue by time since the first launch date. You need to understand how much money comes from new coming user, how much money comes from older users, and so on. Because if you do some changes inside your game, this report can allow you to understand the segments that changed the most. For example, if you change the tutorial, then you should expect that the new coming users metric will change. If you change some prices on the highest level, then it means that you can decrease the revenue for the older segments, and so on. So please use this report because it's really the way to understand your users better. Yeah, the case is how to increase the payments on level 20 to 25. I can recommend you to analyze the economy on these levels, to analyze the average balance of virtual currency, to analyze the purchases, and to analyze the structure of payments on these levels. And maybe the better way to optimize payments on these levels will be to do some targeted offers to them. Because you see the statistics, you know all the information about their behavior, so you can use it to make some targeted offers. If you see that the players on this level prefer to buy some Excalibur sword, you can offer it to them, and it will increase your retention, and it will increase your payments on this level. So it was like the 5 stages of the game analysis. You start with the major KPI and you finish with the game economy. But it's not the end. There is always one additional dimension. It's called segmentation. All the methods and all the metrics will be more useful to you if you will calculate it not for the whole set of users, but for some specific user segments. And now I'd like to make some recommendation how to use the segments. For example, one of the best types of segmentation of your players is to segment them by frequency of their entrances and by their payment activity. So you can divide your users into 4 segments, from those who plays frequently and prefer to pay, to those who plays rarely and prefer not to pay. And of course, you will need to make some different decisions to that 4 segments. And you will see how your distribution will change after your decisions, after some changes that you can make inside your game. Another interesting type of segmentation is the RFM analysis. You segment your users by only your paying users, by recency, frequency, and monetary of your payments. So you can create lots of sub-segments. For example, you can create a segment of users who paid recently, like a few days ago, and who prefer to pay frequently, and who prefer the higher amounts of money. What you need to do with them, you need to say thank you to them, because these are the users who give you most of the revenue. But of course, there could be some, this type of segmentation can allow you to understand some problem segments. Maybe the problems are with the frequency, maybe with the recency, maybe with the monitoring. It's how the LFM analysis is realized in dev-to-dev. Yeah, I'm sure you know this type of classification, this type of segmentation is Richard Bartle's classification of players. And it really works. Usually, if you're talking about online games, all the users can be divided into 4 categories: killers, achievers, socializers, and explorers. They have the different behavior, they have different motivation, they have different metric values, and you need to understand them to optimize your game for them. And also, what is more important and what is more interesting to analyze is to analyze their communication. It's to analyze how do they migrate from one segment to another. It's also very important to understand. You can also segment your users by any other parameter, for example, by country, by install date, and you can call it the cohort analysis, by device, it's also very important, by age, by the frequency of their sessions, and so on. So my recommendation is to create some interesting segment of your users to better understand the behavior of your player. Okay, it was an algorithm. First, you start with your major KPI, with your revenue and with your audience. After that, don't forget about the metrics of quality, such as retention, such as average revenue per user, or average revenue per paying user, or lifetime value. After that, I can recommend you to send more information to the analytical platform to build events, to build the funnels, to understand the bottlenecks, the weak points inside your game. Then analyze the structure of your game, analyze your levels, analyze locations, maybe analyze the heat maps of any level. It's also very important to understand how the users do on this level. And finally, analyze the game economy. So all that purchases, all that currencies, all that balances. And don't forget about segmentations, because usually segments, they can help you to better understand your users, to better, to create more hypotheses and to create more targeted hypotheses to check for your A/B tests, for example. And yes, it's the way to optimize your game, to optimize your performance, to find the problem, and it's the way to make you and your game better. You can use dev-to-dev for that aims. You cannot use it. It's up to you. But anyway, dev-to-dev, we are based here in Vilnius, and you can always ask us about some expertise about your game. We like to analyze games, and we know how to do it. This is the sophisticated scheme how do we work. We can take the data from SDK or from server, and we can provide you with interesting and important reports for you. And yes, we are available for any platform. So if you want to use us, you just need to download the SDK, integrate it, and start it gaining more profit. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you the good day and good evening.